In this video, I'm going to show you a few more things that I haven't shown you yet with Unity. And I'm also going to show you how you can find 3D models. So I'm going to keep the scene as we left it in the last video. You can see that the collider is a little bit bigger than the ball. It was for demonstration, but now I'm going to reduce the collider to the same size as the ball. I'm going to lower a little bit the camera to film the scene with a better view. I'm going to color the ball in red and to add a little bit of contrast. Normally, you should now be a bit more comfortable with everything I'm doing here, moving around in the view, moving the objects, coloring them. You should be able to do the manipulations on your end as well. I'm going to enlarge the floor a little bit, just to make it a little bit larger, and what we're going to do is create physics material. In our project here, we can right-click, create, and there you have the possibility to select amongst the different purpose things. We select physics material. I've already explained that it's to give physical properties to our object. I call it bounce. We're going to create a bouncing ball. I take this physics material, drag it over the ball. There's not a lot of properties in the physics material. There's the friction. How much friction with objects is important. And there is the bounciness, which is equal to 0. It will not bounce at all. And if I put 0.9, knowing that it goes from 0 to 1, if I put 0.9, it will have a very high bounciness. So here I put these values. If I click on the ball, we see that there is the physics material here, which has been added to the sphere collider. Because a physics material does not appear as a component here, but it's added to the sphere collider in the material property. We can take it and drag it here, or we can click on the little circle there to be able to search for the physics material in our objects, in our project. But as we only have one physics material, we don't need to go through here, we see it directly. But this window can be useful if you have dozens of different physics materials. You can even use the search bar to find what you're looking for. Okay, let's test it. I'll start the game. The ball should bounce. And here we have a ball that bounces. Maybe not enough. So we can try to adjust the frictions. We can decrease the friction, put 0.1 and 0.1. We launch the project. It's still not enough bounce. We can increase it to 1 to put a maximum bounce. And then, if it's still not enough, because I think it's still too light, you have to know that by default physics material does its calculations in average mode. And if you want to have maximum bounce, you can set bounce combined to maximum, which will change the parameters of your physics material, and then you really have a bouncing ball. But now it's too bouncy because you have a perfect bounce, you're in 1. This means that the ball will never stop. But if you put 0.6, for example, it should be a little bit better. There. It will fade over time. You can play with that knowing that the physics properties will allow you to implement interesting things in your games. Okay, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you. Now we're going to talk about 3D models. We have the ability to import 3D models into Unity. I told you that you can import 3D models from Blender. Blender is a 3D modeling software. I've also done several training courses on this software. In there you can really model complete 3D objects. It's a software that is made for, and I'm going to model a tree, for example. I won't tell you all the keyboard shortcuts I use because this is not a Blender course. It's just to show you how it works. If you're interested, if you want to learn how to model with Blender, I also offer tutorials on this software. They are in French, but leave me a comment if you would like to have them in English. If there are enough requests, I will make an English version. Because it's really a perfect combo, Unity Blender, to learn how to model and use a 3D model in Unity. It allows you to create your game from scratch with totally original resources because you create your own 3D models. So it's ideal if you want to create a unique game. So here we have modeled a tree very quickly, and in Blender we have the possibility, wait, first I'm going to merge this. In Blender we have the possibility to create materials too. So I can select the leaves, and I'm going to create a material that I called green. Then I'll put a little bit of green shades, and there I'm going to create another one, brown, and I'll put a little bit of brown shade like this. I'm just going to render it so we can see that it does the job. The green is a little bit too green, but well, that's okay. Then I merge, I rename my object tree, and once you have your 3D model, you can do File, Export, FBX. This is the preferred format for Unity 3D. It's really the format that is best handled by Unity. It allows you to export the 3D model, the textures, and so on. So I'm going to choose where I want to export my 3D model, and I can actually export it into the Unity project. Now I'm in the Unity project folder as we created it. I haven't shown you what's in the project, but in short, in the project you have a whole bunch of folders that are useful for the project to function properly. And among all these folders you have the asset folder. And this asset folder corresponds to the tree structure that you have in the Unity project window. Look, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 folders. I go into Unity. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 folders. If I create a new models folder, I already have a models folder. I'll create a test folder instead. I create a test folder here. I go back into Blender and the test folder appears here. I go into the test folder. I'll export tree.fbx to export my 3D model of the tree. So in the Blender export settings, I'm just going to export the selected object, which is the tree. I'm not going to export the camera, the lamp, or the armature. Just the 3D model I do export. I go back to Unity. I could have dragged the FBX file directly here. That would have worked too, but as I saved my Blender 3D model directly in there, I find my tree here, which I can take and drag onto my scene. And then I have a 3D tree model that I can duplicate, position a little bit further away, you can change the size, you can really do whatever you want. And when you import a 3D model from Blender, you have the possibility to modify the colors, the materials, you have the possibility to modify those properties. So it's not very complicated. When you import a 3D model, this is my imported 3D model. I have access to all its properties. Among these properties we have material here, and there I'll be able to click on extract materials to extract the materials from the 3D model. I'll extract them in the materials folder. I'm going to select the folder. Normally it's extracted the materials, we'll see. We go to the material folder and we see brown and green one, because green was already taken. So we have brown and green one. And if I change green one to another color, we see that the leaves of my tree change color. We can take a more than color, and for the trunk, we can take a lighter color or whatever. And here we can change the colors of our tree. So this is how you import 3D models, and then you can configure 3D models. For example, by default, there is no collision of my tree on my tree. Look, I'm going to position the tree here. I'm putting the ball on top of the tree. Normally the ball should collide with the tree. I run the game, and by default there's no collision with the tree, because Blender 3D models don't have collisions. What you can do is set up this. We'll do add component, we'll search for collider, and we can take a mesh collider. I already explained that the mesh collider would perfectly fit the shape of the tree. By default we're in concave, so it's really going to take a perfect shape in relation to the tree. Or we can go to convex mode, which will more or less fit the tree. You can see that the collider encompasses the tree in a cage, as if there was a net all around. So these are not perfect collisions, but it's a collision that's a bit easier to calculate. And now that I've added this, you'll see that the ball will collide with the tree quite simply, because now the tree is solid. And in Unity we have what are called prefabs, which are pre-made objects that you can reuse and reuse. We're going to create a prefabs folder here, so I'm going to create a new folder that I'm going to call prefab, and that's going to allow us to create prefabricate objects. As I said, we can, for example, create tree1. We take the tree from our hierarchy, we drag it to the prefabs folder. So here we say we want to create an original prefab, and then we have our tree which has been saved, and we can use it over and over again. And it will have exactly the same configuration with its collider. You also have the possibility to change the material of the tree. You can create a red tree. I'm going to call it tree2. I'm going to create another prefab, so you can imagine winter trees in white and summer trees in green, and then you'll have your tree variants, so you can create your forest. What is the purpose of creating a prefab? It's to be able to quickly reuse your 3D model. And moreover, imagine that we made a mistake and the color is wrong. We won't have fun changing each tree individually. That would be far too tedious. When you go through a prefab, you can change the color of the material, and this will affect all the trees in all your scenes. The prefabs are linked. This allows you to quickly make a modification without any problem. So that's what the prefabs are for. So now I'm going to introduce you to some websites where you can get 3D models, mostly for free. We're going to go to my French website from formation-facile.fr. There's also unity3d-dev.com, which is also my website. I'm going to present you this. We have OpenGameHeart. I'm going to introduce you to that one. So what else can I show you? FreeSound, for example. Asset Store. We'll look at that. And then Kenya Assets. There you go. There'll be several sites you can add to your bookmarks. I'm going to start with my own website, Formation-Facile, which is a website where I publish blog posts, tutorials, and so on. You have in premium trainings, Udemy, the download associated with my Udemy trainings. And in these downloads, you have access to certain things, mnemonic sheets, or sometimes assets. So I'm going to go through this real quickly because this is not where I upload my 3D models, but you can check it out anyway. Another website that I manage is Unity3d-dev that focuses on development with Unity. I propose Unity courses in French that you can find here, and also assets for Unity. And there are assets that you can download as Unity packages that you can open directly in your Unity project. There are, for example, 3D models to create dungeons or to create villages. I've published some 3D models to create platformers. So there's a few things here and there. Freesound.org, that's a different website. It's more for finding audio effects. If you want to make sounds of, for example, animals, walking sound, rain sound, or whatever, you can find all the sound effects you want on that website, and you can use them in Unity. I'll show you how to play with audio in Unity a little bit later. This is a really good website for finding any kind of sound effects. You have Kenny, who is an artist who offers a lot of textures, kits to develop video games. He's rather specialized in 2D, So you can download 2D textures, 2D images, but he also does a little bit of 3D. There's a lot of packages. So I'll let you have a look on the website. There's really a lot of resources. Most of the resources are free and totally royalty free, which means you can do whatever you want with them, even for commercial projects. And the paid packs you have here, it's the same as the free packs, I think. Might be just a little bit better organized, but pretty sure you have access to everything for free. And so you can preview the resources and then just download them. There's a lot of packages. Vehicles, villages, characters, there's a lot of packages that you can download. It's a good reference. OpenGameArt.org is also a reference. I use it all the time. A website where you can find a lot of stuff. 2D, 3D, you click on Browse, you have 2D, 3D, concept art, textures, music, sound effects. You can, for example, go to 3D. Here in 3D you can search for things. For example, we'll search for tree. We'll see what we can find. We can preview all the packages, but I'll go here, for example. We have low poly trees. We can see an image, we can see the description, and we can download it. Here, I'm going to download those 3D models. We're going to extract this to see what's in there. I'm extracting them somewhere on my computer. And we see that in there you find the Blender files. If you want to modify the 3D models yourself in Blender, you have access to the Blender sources. We have OBJ, which is also a format supported by Unity. But you can open it in Blender and convert it to FBX if you want. So what we can do, for example, is drag the OBJ folder into test to import the 3D models. And I go to test, OBJ, and then there we see the different 3D models that we've just downloaded. So this is a cloud, we've got trees here, there you go. So the materials, the textures are a little less well managed, but normally they are delivered with them, if I'm correct. Depends on the packages you download. Sometimes the textures are delivered with them, sometimes not. But anyway, you have access to the Blender sources if you want to modify them, as I said. And you can also color the 3D models, like this. And then you can use them in your projects. So that was for OpenGameArt. Good reference to put in your bookmarks. I use it almost all the time. And finally, we have the Unity Asset Store, which is the official Unity shop. It's really specific assets for Unity created by pros. A lot of them have fees, but you can find free stuff. You can search the assets here. You can search, for example, cartoon. I tap cartoon, I search. It's going to find me different 3D models and other stuff. It can be complete games, templates, particle effects, and everything is in really high quality. Like I said, it's made by pros. So I'm going to look at the package here. In general, it's not very expensive. You see, for 8 euros, you have a high quality package that you can use in your games. It's directly compatible with Unity, and in general, you have access to a complete scene. For example, this scene here, you will have access to it, and there you can preview the content of the pack to see what's inside, and then use them directly. So you can find free resources. For that, you just have to filter in pricing. You check free assets. We see that we have about 300 free assets, and just with what is in free mode, you have enough to do. You have something to occupy you for a long time. There's a tank there, cars. There's really a lot of stuff, and you'll be able to have an infinite amount of resources here that you can use. So we have the tank, a little cartoon town with cars, cartoon vehicles. That's really quite a lot. And for example, if you want to get the tank, you have to be logged into Unity. You have to log in with your account, and then you can click on Add to my assets to add that to your assets. Now I'm going to be asked to log in because I'm not logged in. So here I am. I just logged in so I can show you all the ways through. You can see that I'm logged in because my username is there. You can click on Add to my assets to add it to your assets. Then you can open it directly in Unity. But since Unity is already open, I'll go back to Unity. So we'll remember just the name of the package, Cartoon Tank Free. I'll go into Unity. And we'll go into Window, Package Manager, which I've already introduced to you. And in the Package Manager, we wait a little bit for it to load. It can take a little time. We're in Package Manager. We go to my assets. So these are your assets. You have to be connected to your Unity account to be able to find your assets. And to connect to your Unity account, it's at the top left here. You have a little menu. You can see that I'm connected. FS, it's my account. You just need to log in with your Unity email, which you use to get your license for the software. And once you're logged in, everything you've picked up from the asset store will be visible here in the package manager. Really anything that you've picked up from the store, you'll find here. I look for Cartoon Tank Free, which is the package that we just added to our assets. So I never downloaded it, so I'm going to have to click on download to download the package. We have the progress here below. Here we go. It's pretty fast. And once it's done, we'll click on import. It's like I'm importing a Unity package. We see the contents of the package. We can click on import. We wait for the object to be imported into our assets. And there I find Cartoon Tank Free here. There are several models. There are materials. There is a complete scene. So I'm going to show you the complete scene, for example. And here I am with the tank. I have access to the tank, to the 3D model of the tank, to a prefab of the tank. So I explained to you that the prefab is something that can be reused very quickly like this, and then we can use it. We can use it. If I go back to our scene, I can add the tank here. And then we can create a game based on this tank. So the asset store, it's really a goldmine. You'll find tons of 3D models. With all the websites that I've shown you, you've got something to do. You've got something to keep you busy for a very long time without ever having to pay a single cent. So that's what I wanted to show you in this video. Now, you know what a prefab is, how to create one. You just have to drag an object into your project to be able to generate a prefab. You know where to find 3D models easily, so you can start creating your game without having to worry about resources. Or you can simply learn to model them yourself in Blender. Blender is a pretty easy program. In fact, what's complex is just the first few days when you're learning the user interface and the keyboard shortcuts. But if you're serious for 2 or 3 days and you work really well, you'll be able to model anything you want in Blender. Once you get past the first few days, which are more complex, the software becomes quite easy to use. And doing low poly modeling, low poly is like that, with few polygons, very simple 3D models. If you're doing low poly modeling, well, it's very easy. You can model anything you want quite quickly, and then you use your own models in Unity. Okay, I'm going to stop here for this video. We'll have done a little tour of the different websites I recommend, and we'll meet again in the next video, in which we'll maybe start talking a little bit about code, so that I can show you how it goes when you want to code interactions in Unity.